Welcome to the Story Within podcast. Today I have with me Melanie Lemus as our guest host. She also works with me at Vision to Purpose. Pull that
Hello
up.
again.
Hello. So today we're going to talk about branding and specifically personal branding. But before we get to branding, the personal part of it, we kind of need to know what branding is. Melanie, do you want to talk about what branding is?
Sure. Branding is a way to give people an idea of what to expect. If you have if you have a cohesive brand, whether it's for your business or for your own personal, like your own personal brand, which is kind of what we're talking about more today, it will give people an idea of what it's like to work with you, what they can expect from your personality or your working traits. And it also is a way to help people remember you and to think of you when, hey, I'm looking for this type of service. Oh, I remember that one person who, really made me feel like they would do a great job or whatever. And I remember their colors and I remember the smile and whatever. You evoke a feeling and you cement a memory in people's minds if you do it well. That's kind of what branding is.
Yes. I always love when you give definitions. You're so good.
Thank
So
you.
for me, in a nutshell, yes, I agree with everything Melanie just said. So if you replay this, listen to Melanie. But in a nutshell, at the end of the day, when I think of branding, I think of getting someone to pick me over someone else, or your brand over some other brand or product or whatnot. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do companies do it? Let's look at companies first. What gets you to buy Crest over Colgate or Pepsi over Coke? What is it in your mind that makes you gravitate to those products? Now, I'll tell you, in our house, we're divided. I'll be honest. I'm from Wisconsin. My husband's from Georgia. Most people from Georgia are going to pick Coke. It's, that's the brand, right? So
Isn't Georgia like, even if they pick Pepsi, they call it Coke?
Yes. So, but me, Coke's okay. I'll take a Coke over a Pepsi, but I have to have a Diet Pepsi over a Diet Coke. Go figure. I don't know. So maybe it's a compromise. I don't know. Same with toothpaste. We're at least on the same page with that. I'm a Crest user, but I use Crest Pro Health Sensitive, over another brand.
It depends on, you're asking like, why do you choose one brand over another? And it depends on what you as the consumer values. So someone like me, I am very, conscious of toxicity. I've had health problems in the past that have forced me to become this way. So I look for brands that, don't have X, Y, and Z in them. And it's not so much of, we have this, this, and this. It's like, well, what don't you have in there? And that's what I look for. So those types of companies, they know that there is a growing base of consumers like me out there. And so that is what you're starting to see a lot of marketing. It's like free from this, this, and this.
Yes.
And so now it's not so much, well, in our product, we have this proprietary blend. I mean, you still see that, but you're now starting to see like, well, our brand, we don't have this, this, and this. So, it depends on what the audience is, and which that actually that pertains to personal branding as well, is who is your audience.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. Before we move on, you're exactly right. And it goes to one, knowing who you are, knowing what you're trying to get across, knowing your values, what you stand for. No different than a company. So it doesn't matter if you're a job seeker. It doesn't matter if you are that entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you're an author. How do you want to be perceived? What do you want people to remember when they think of you? So anyway, going back to the company example, and then we'll jump into the personal side of it. How do companies do it? Like Melanie said, there's companies out there who, portray a different message. Maybe it's not the convenience. Maybe it is the well-being side, the health and wellness side. And I'll tell you, as I get older and as I work more with Melanie, I am learning to look for things that are better for me, where in the past, perhaps I was persuaded by a commercial or convenience. Melanie will tell you sometimes I overwhelm myself and it's all about convenience for me. She needs to do a podcast on time management for me and not overwhelming, because that would be a great one for me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I tend to overdo it, and then I'm reaching for convenience. I could care less if it has all the bad stuff in it. Anyway.
And here's me. I'm actually making my entire skincare line for myself, like from scratch. Obviously, convenience is not as high on my priority list. It's all about like content. So
exactly. Yeah. So, but what do they tell you in Leadership 101? Surround yourself with smart people. And that's what I've done. See, I'm already excelling because I surrounded myself with people like Melanie, because I know my weaknesses, and she's teaching me better. Or I just buy it from her and then I'm good.
Right. No. Or I just give it to you.
Right. Okay. I know. Here I go. You gotta keep me off my tangents. All right.
I'm not good at that. I will go off tangents with you. So we need a referee.
That's right. We need a moderator. No. So anyway, so how do companies do it? No matter what kind of company, no matter what kind of brand, how do companies do it? Well, clearly deliver a message that resonates with the intended target audience. Melanie mentioned that you need to know your audience. Emotionally connect with that target audience, whether it's over a cause, whether it's over, like Melanie said, the well-being thing or convenience for me, whatever it is, know your audience and connect with them, and then motivate them. How are you going to motivate them to buy your service over another, or choose you over another candidate if it's a job situation, or buy your book over someone else's book? How are you going to do that? Okay. And then how are you going to turn those people into loyal customers going forward? So it could be, when I say customers, maybe not customers in the case of a job seeker, but how are you going to get that company to promote you once you're in there, over other people that work there? How are you going to get people to continually buy your follow-on books? And as an entrepreneur, how are you going to get people to come back and be those repeat customers? So this is where companies tend to do it well. Okay. Maybe not all of them. We've seen some missteps in the news, right? But I'm going to tell you, companies do it well, use 5 things as their factors, I guess, if you will. And these play a huge role, and these do go to personal branding, and I'm bringing them up because you need to think about them as you create your personal brand. So trust, let me put it actually on the screen because I want you to remember this. Trust, connection, credibility, confidence, and authenticity. Those are the 5 key things that make a brand, no matter if it's a company brand or a personal brand, excel. At the end of the day, that's what's going to make you top of mind. That's what's going to help you excel. From the personal perspective, that's what's going to keep you top of mind for others, whether it's a job, whether it's a service you're providing, and whether it's a book. Okay. So I wanted to make sure we went there. So what does trust feel like? I mean, I'm a job seeker. How do I build trust? What do I do? Well, I'm going to keep going back and forth a little bit on the company thing so you can kind of see. And I'm going to give you an example. And now I'm going to date myself because I'm going back to the 80s. Okay. So in the 90s,
you read about it. Just say, I read about this.
I read about it in the news. I didn't live through it. In the mid-1980s, early to mid-1980s, there was a huge issue. They called it the Chicago Tylenol murders. And actually, I found it funny as I looked it up because I was trying to refresh my own memory. Apparently, it's all big on TikTok now. I don't do TikTok, but I should ask my son about this afterwards, because apparently this case has come back up and TikTokers, is that what you call them, are talking about them, and this whole crime stuff. So anyway, interesting. I digress. But anyway, so in the 1980s, Tylenol, people were taking it and they were dying. Apparently, the brand had been attacked. It was the capsules, the acetaminophen capsules were being tampered by someone. They didn't know if it was on the production line or within the stores that were selling it. Turns out it was laced with potassium cyanide, and people were showing up at the hospital and nobody was able to do anything. They were just dying right there in front of all these people. This is where the trust comes in. Immediately, Johnson & Johnson, who is the overarching brand of Tylenol, pulled all of the pills off and I'm talking millions. They lost millions of dollars, pulled tons of product off the shelves. And then the investigation turned up that it did not happen in their production plants, that they could continue to produce because it wasn't them. FBI, everybody was involved. It was not them. But Tylenol did not come out to the public and say, oh, it's not us. Don't blame us. It's so-and-so, so-and-so. And they didn't do that. They instead put public safety first. They kept the product off the shelf. They kept the product off the shelf for quite a while. And they actually helped search for who was doing this. Because again, this was a mass murder. They were killing many people with this tampering. And then of course, when stuff like this happens, copycats pop up. So this went on from the early 80s to the mid 80s. And I'll tell you, because Tylenol built, or Johnson & Johnson built such strong trust with the public felt that they cared. Today, look how popular the product still is. Mm-hmm. Now, also as a result of that, knowing their audience, knowing that they cared for people, as a result of what happened during that time frame, it produced or resulted in the tamper-resistant packaging that we have today. So, and they collaborated with other people. They connected with other brands to help that come to fruition. So that's an example of trust, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep going with a couple other examples of how companies do it, because I want you to get that in your mind as you think about what to do for yourself. When we get to the personal branding side. And Melanie's going to talk a lot about the personal branding side. So I know she's sitting quiet now, but she's got some really good stuff for us. Yeah. So we got the trust thing down. How do you build trust, right? Okay, so we got I gave you the Tylenol example and how companies do it. Let's talk about the connection piece. So that's also about a little bit of trust. People aren't going to connect with you if they don't trust you. So see what I mean about these 5 things that are important? They almost kind of they're interwoven. They kind of connect. They weave mm-hmm. together, I should say. So to build company trust and connect, companies actually have to connect with people. They have to know their audience. They have to be present where people are. So Melanie's going to touch a little bit on connection from a networking standpoint, from the personal perspective. But you got to know where you want to be. So as an author, I write Christian Bible studies for women, and I also write career books. So I'm not going to do well if I join a group of, say, horror fiction writers or fantasy something. That's not my genre. So that's not my audience. They're not going to like my books. I'm going to waste advertising money. I'm going to waste my time. I'm going to waste my effort because I'm not in the right place. I'm not connecting with the right people that I need to connect with for that side of my brand.
And one thing I want to hop in really quick and mention in regard to that is, if you find yourself in front of the wrong audience, it can, in some ways, damage your brand, because if this is getting put in front of people that don't want your product, that don't like your product, it's not meant for them. So, of course, it's not going to be something that they're raving about. And that could actually damage your product because bad word of mouth gets out. Because other people that are reading this, they don't know that this product is not necessarily meant for these people, but they're going to read like, I didn't like this book at all. You know what I mean? And so that could actually damage your brand in the long run if you are putting it in front of the wrong group, or say in regard to like a job search. If you are applying to jobs that really have nothing to do with your experience or your skill set or your strengths, you're not going to do well, you know?
Right. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. Know your audience from a job seeker perspective. I'll tell you, one of the quickest way to not get a job is to pick a company. And even if the company is a good fit, you go online and you apply to 10 jobs within the company, all different jobs. You should never apply to multiple positions, because you're telling the interviewer or the company, the hiring authority, that the only thing you care about is getting your foot in the door. You don't care what you do. And that will harm your personal job seeker brand, that your individual brand. And I actually have an article on that on the Vision to Purpose website. So check out that blog article with regards to applying to many positions within a company. And that comes straight from HR professionals when they see a person come through and just start applying for everything.
Do you think it shows that that person just really doesn't have a good idea of their strengths or necessarily what they want to do?
Yes. It shows that they're wishy-washy, that they either only care about the money that goes along with the position, perhaps maybe getting their foot in the door, but they won't be truly satisfied because they're applying to all these different areas. So there's a lot of different reasons. And on a future podcast, I will have some HR professionals on that we're going to talk about some of that. So that's in the works, but yeah, it doesn't put you in a good light. So I'm glad you followed on that. So connection, we're going to talk about how companies connect. Like I said, be seen. They collaborate with others. They do events. There's lots of different things. From a personal perspective, Melanie's going to talk about some networking and how we can connect as individuals, both as authors and job seekers, and even as entrepreneurs. But the next thing is credibility. So again, if people don't think you're credible, the service you provide is credible. Say you as a job seeker have a Facebook profile or a LinkedIn that is not in line with, what they're promoting or what you're telling them that you're an expert in, you're not credible. You're shooting yourself in the foot on that one, because again, you're harming your brand. Companies build credibility by tying themselves to individuals who say, if it's a new company, like, okay, Vision to Purpose, I've only been around full time. I've had the business since 2013, but really have run with it since 2017. So in the grand scheme, I'm still pretty new. So I've built a lot of strategic partnerships with other individuals that have been around for a lot longer. I brought Crystal from Made to Be Unique on one of our podcasts. She's been in business for over 15 years. So when it comes to web design and graphic design and whatnot, we work together. We collaborate on some projects because she's already established a following, and so I have that, is what I'm trying to say.
And it shows that you can hold your own at that level.
Right.
With somebody that's been doing this for a really long time, you're basically saying, hey, this might not have been my full-time gig for 20 years, but I still have what it takes. And this is proven by the company that I hold,
Yes. And that goes, to the entrepreneur. I know I've been speaking to the job seeker and the author, but even as an entrepreneur, the people you hire, I chose Melanie for several reasons. She fits my brand, she fits within the company. She understands the core values. She aligns to them. That's important to me. I wouldn't, I'm a Christian company. There's certain things that I hold dear, and she aligns to those things. So that was a strategic hire, they call that. And that's something you have to think about when you have a company as well. Do the people you're hiring represent your brand? And then taking it to the job seekers, are you comfortable with that company's brand? Because whether you want to believe it or not, you're a representative of it on the job and off the job. So if you're posting things on social media and you're totally disagreeing with your company, that's not going to go well for your company or for you in the long run. So don't apply to jobs that, or with companies that you don't feel comfortable working for. Right. Just something to think about. Credibility. We talked about credibility a little bit. So companies gain credibility by building again off the credibility of others. You can see this a lot of times with large companies. They hire actors and actresses and sports, professionals, because they know that's going to sell their brand. Whether it's a shoe, and a particular athlete that wears it, or uniform, gear, that kind of stuff. Everything has a brand. I could name off tons of brands that my husband wears for hunting and fishing and stuff like that. So they hire people to entice everybody else to buy those things. So, and that helps build up their credibility. The other thing was confidence. Companies are confident about the products they sell. They're pushing things out that, they've already done the research on. They've already taken it to a particular level in testing or whatnot. And, they push it out the door with as much confidence at that moment. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but, they're pushing it out the door feeling pretty good about that product. Because here's the thing, if you push out a bad product, what travels faster, Melanie? Good word of mouth or bad?
Bad for sure. And
right.
People are more likely to speak about a bad experience than they are about a good experience.
Exactly. So you have to work extra hard to get people to say good things about you. So you want to put out good product, good service. As a job seeker, you want to put out a good resume. You want to have a good LinkedIn. You want to represent yourself well. Again, we'll talk about those kinds of things in a minute. And then be authentic. Authenticity is important. If you say one thing and then you do another, guess what? You've just ruined your brand. If you say you stand for this and then you're out doing these different things, and perhaps as a business owner, you're doing things that are unethical. And, say a news article comes out, guess what? You just lost all that hard work and effort you put in was for naught, because now you just ruined your brand. And it is harder to rebuild a brand than it is to grow one. So you have to be authentic, and being authentic means that you want people to know you care, that you're a person of integrity, that you can be, again, trusted. It all goes back to these 5 things that are, just interlaced, if you will. So you want to make sure you do that. But we keep having a guest. I think he wants to know about branding. I'll have to talk to him about branding for Bichles. I don't know.
That brand is just hyper. That is the brand from top to bottom.
Yes. I probably should have read the part that said, great for marathon runners, when we picked him out, because we just saw Bird Dog and my husband got excited because, again, he's the hunter. But found out later that these dogs were all over running magazines.
Yes, they are.
Because they're great companions for marathon runners. Who knew? That's where I fell short on my research. Anyway, all right. So now let's take it to the personal brand here. How do we do that? How do we create our personal brand? Well, I said at the beginning, even as a company, it starts with your words and your actions. So you have to deliver a message that resonates with people. One, it has to resonate, and it has to mean something. Yep, there's my house. So, Melanie, do you want to chime in on any of that, or you want me to keep going?
Actually, before we get to the message part, I think one thing that is really important when you're creating your own personal brand is a certain level of self-awareness. And if you are completely out of touch with how you come across to other people, you're going to struggle with creating a brand that really sticks, because you might create this beautiful brand with all this, credibility online, and then people meet you in person and you don't match what you think you are.
Yes.
That is going to upset the trust. It's going to upset the credibility that you're trying to portray. So you and I had spoken before on building, on ways that you can acquire or build your self-awareness. And one of those ways is to have, which I know that I do this for you all the time. And so I think one of the reasons why you chose me to work with you is because we have our strengths are kind of opposite of what each other's are, yet so we complement each other really well. And I think I've always joked that I have a disproportionate self-esteem. And so and I think on your extreme, sometimes, or like on your end, sometimes you can doubt yourself and you're like, is this coming across the way that I want it? Do people think this? And I'm there to tell you, Janine, like, this is how you come across to people. And it's oftentimes it's very different than what you're worrying people might be thinking, and I'm like, no, Janine, like, you are so lovable and you're so like welcoming and just awesome. And so,
I'm red. Look, no.
You're like, go on. No, but I think it's really important to have someone that you can trust,
right.
to be real with you and to say, this is kind of what the public's perception is of you. This is what, your peers think of you. If you're speaking to one of your peers, well, this is kind of what your reputation is at work, or this is kind of what my impression was of you after we worked together. So find people that you have a good rapport with and just ask them, say, hey, I'm really trying to build a better picture or I'm trying to build my self-awareness, and I'm trying to understand what my reputation is currently. And then you can understand your starting point. So you can look at your starting point, and if it's already where you want your personal brand to be, excellent. If it's not, then that shows you areas that you can work on to get to the point that you're aiming. So self-awareness, I think, is a very important pre-step.
Yes. And I'll add to that, your branding is not one and done. You should always reevaluate, because as Melanie stated, how do people perceive you? You may think that you're pushing out this wonderful brand and this is what, people are gleaning from it, but it may not be. And I'll give you a quick example. When I was working for the military, let me back up. I was working for mainly an expeditionary warrior command, if you will, very male centric. And so to be credible in that environment, I was, I've never been in the military. I had to learn the language. My husband is former military, so I knew some, but I never worked in that environment. I was never deployed. I never did the things these true heroes did, But yet I had to be credible. I had to speak truth. I had to share information, and I had to do it in a way that they received it well. Mm-hmm. I couldn't be, funny and maybe perhaps how I was in other environments, but I didn't realize that I was coming across super professional. I thought I was just being professional. And being just on my game and whatnot. And I remember sitting down in a meeting with the chief of staff at this particular command, and he said something. I came back with some witty banter, and we both just started cracking up. And then he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "Oh my gosh, you do laugh, and you're actually quite funny." And I thought, I am inside. I'm like, I am funny. I do laugh, and in that moment, it struck me, oh my gosh, I am portraying a person that I'm not. I was taking my professionalism to the extreme, and then, had to do some self-reflection on what was that costing me. Yes, I'm professional and people came to me. I was a go-to person, but what was I missing out on, Mm-hmm. So anyway, when I went full-time, full force with Vision to Purpose, that was a huge concern for me. I wanted people to see me the way I really am. And I remember one of my first coaching clients back then, we did a Zoom call, and she said, wow, you're a lot different on this call. I was live. You're a lot different in person, and you're quite attractive. You don't look anything like your pictures, because I had this very professional picture. And the picture was actually my government picture, with the suit and the button-up collar, and I even had a pin on, I think, a brooch or something, who knows. And she's like, wow, you're not anything like that. And so that was one of the things when I saw Melanie. We actually go to church together, and she would always, she sings beautifully, so I would see her on stage, but she's also one of the people they always tap to give announcements to the congregation and stuff. And she gets up there, she whips it out, and she's so conversational. And I found myself always smiling as she was talking. And I'm like, that's how
my husband says I'm just a big clown.
Well, she is a little bit of that, but that's the inner me that I'm trying to get people to see. And so I knew to deal with my weakness and my own self-doubts and whatnot, recognizing that, I knew I had to surround myself with smart people, and Melanie is that person. So when I do have those times where I feel I'm not where I need to be, or I fall back into those cognitive distortions of self-doubt or whatnot, in any of my hats, whether it's the entrepreneur or the author, there's lots of things that hit you at times in both scenarios. And I know that's with job seekers too. You doubt your skills. You're concerned about, what people are going to think of you. Maybe you've had a 30-year military career. You don't know anything else, or you're retiring as a teacher after 27 years. And, we all experience those doubts and fears of going forward. And so it really does, again, thanks for bringing that up, Melanie. It really does go to self-reflection, self-awareness, knowing you. And sometimes, we get to this point. I'm a bit older than Melanie. So mid-career, midlife, I don't want to say crisis, but midlife, you start wondering, oh, how did I get here? What am I doing? Self-reflection, self-awareness, find yourself again. And that's, again, another podcast topic. But all right, let's move on.
You had started talking about revisiting your branding. So we had talked about, especially if you are actively in the job search and you are, taking courses and adding them to your resume and increasing your professionalism in different areas, or if you are really growing in your business, your personal branding is something that you're going to want to revisit every 6 months to every year to reflect where you want to be, like where you're aiming, and not just like, well, I'm here and I don't want to grow at all. You want to continually evolve things to reflect what you want your career to be. So we had started talking about that, but just to wrap that up.
Yes. Thank you for getting us back, circling back around. That's perfect. So let's delve into, the messaging. How do you, on a resume or in a book, or even as your marketing materials, how do you convey, trust, or who you are as a brand, what you stand for? There's a lot of different ways to do it. One thing I would say, take a step back as now you have some self-awareness, right? Well, think about how you got to where you got in life. And this doesn't matter what type of individual you are, what your hat is. Think about some stories that, really were impactful and changed who you are. I'll tell you, it took me a long time. I grew up in an abusive environment, and I thought when I was much younger, in my 20s, that I was doomed for brokenness and I wouldn't amount to much. And I had a lot of this cognitive distortion, biases, whatever you want to call it, that kept me stuck, that kept me not moving forward, not growing, thinking this was, at that point in time, that's where I was going to be. But that story changed when a mentor came into my life and told me how wonderful I was and pointed out all of the good things and helped me understand what I could look forward to, and how the things I had been through, those experiences, were actually beneficial for others. And I'll tell you, having that story now to reflect back on the times with that particular person helped grow my faith. that story in my mind is impactful because it made such a difference in my life. And even every experience, good or bad, has gotten me to where I am today. And if you, as you're self-reflecting and you think about those stories, write them down and think through if it was a person that helped you through something, if it was an experience that helped you through something, because those are good. When I'll tell you, in interviews, when they ask you about something, you can bring that up. I'm not talking about, we're not going to talk in an interview about your whole childhood. It's not a counseling session, so we're not going there. But a good, fun story, will carry the conversation. And that's all an interview is a conversation.
Well, and that also when you offer personal details, that creates that link, and it helps people naturally. That's human nature. You bond with people, and your automatic reaction is, oh, I can relate to that. I remember when this happened in my childhood, and it creates this bond, and they will be, if you do it well, they will be more inclined to think of you fondly when they're looking back at the interview or the networking event or what have you.
So job seekers, let's take it from the point of a resume. What can you do on a resume that's going to help you? Maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect in what we're saying at the moment. So let me try to tie that in for you. So as you create these lists of things that have happened in your life, and you start looking and connecting dots, like, wow, because this happened, maybe you lost a job. And at the time you were just devastated because you lost that job, and it attacked your self-worth. You didn't think you'd find another one. It created a lot of different things. But shortly thereafter, you got another job and you excelled and you got promoted. Now that experience of losing that job isn't as bad as you thought when you were going through it. And it actually increased your feelings of, hey, I am valued. This other company picked me up. And if I didn't have that, if I didn't lose my job, I wouldn't have had this great opportunity. You start thinking different. So as you craft some of these thoughts of how your life has changed, or, stories that have helped you become the person you've become, think about creating some sort of purpose statement or branding statement. Some people call it a why statement. I'll tell you, all of the things in my life up to this point has absolutely solidified what my why statement is. I'll continue to use it as a why statement, but again, it can be a branding statement or purpose statement, and Melanie will add to that. But let me tell you, when you find that statement, it will help solidify your own confidence. It will build credibility for you, and it doesn't matter in what environment you're sharing that statement. It doesn't matter if it's my kids, my spouse, my clients, the authors I help, or my author, or myself as an author. And let me tell you what mine is: to be a light for others so they can find their way. See what I mean? That's mine, based on all of my experiences. I know, after doing my own reflection, that I'm the counselor, I'm the teacher, I'm the helper, I'm the mediator, I could be better at a moderator, but that's me in a nutshell. I always want to help others.
Right. You have a good, strong branding statement like yours. It helps you, if it helps you make decisions down the road, and it helps you kind of steer your path, because you can always revert back to that and say, this is my like life statement or life, goal or whatever, like yours is to be
my why.
Others find their way. So that would help you. Okay, which of these two choices that I'm debating between is going to help fulfill being a light to others? Yes. And that having a very clear purpose can help you to make decisions down the road and keep your brand clear.
Yes, and and I'm going to tell you, it works again, no matter what hat you're wearing, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. So let's look at it from the job seeker. You can put your why statement on your resume. You can put it right at the top under your headline of what you're an expert in. Okay. You know what that does? When you get called in for an interview, because I know you're going to get called in for that interview, what's it going to do? It's going to be a conversation starter. People are going to ask, what's that quote at the top that you have there? Can you tell us a little bit about it? The best interviews are conversations, and you just started with a conversation. So that's one for the job seekers. How does it help the business owners? Melanie just talked about it. As you're making decisions and say you get clients, it's going to help you remember, I don't have to take every client. I may be desperate right now for money or services, providing services, but that doesn't mean I have to settle for a client that's not a good fit for me. Right. And that will help you stay on the right path. If I can't help someone find their way because they know it all, that's not a good fit for me. We need to part paths. I need to refer them to someone else. That's okay to do. But that why reminds me, because I'm also the type of person, and Melanie will tell you, I overwhelm myself because I want to help everyone, but not everybody wants the same type of help I want to give them. Mm-hmm. So it keeps you grounded. And then for the author, it goes back to, what are your books for? My books are self-help and Bible studies. So again, people who want to read fiction books are not going to want to read my book. They're going to want to read something in their genre. So I'm not being a light to them. I'm not helping them in any way. In fact, I'm annoying to them. I'm taking them away from what they want to do. So that's the importance of having a strong why statement. Now, I will tell you before we move on, you're not going to get your why statement in a 5-minute sitting. In fact, once you get your why statement, you'll probably change it 10 times. But once you feel it and you know it's yours, you will know, and you will gravitate towards it. It will flow off your tongue. It will become so easy. So when you're in a networking event and you meet someone, you can talk about yourself in a short elevator, pitch, if you will, and then tell them your why. And now you've started a conversation again. Right. It's so easy. You will know when you've got the right one because you'll feel it.
Right. And for the listeners that want to learn more about developing your personal branding statement, you can actually go to vision2purpose.com and go to the blog section. You can search branding and a couple of articles will come up. And one of them is the article I wrote last year in July about how to develop your personal branding statement. So there's detailed step-by-step right there.
Perfect. You're so good. You remember everything. So let's talk about that trust aspect and connection and some of the things we talked about for the company. You want to go ahead, Melanie, and talk about how you build the connection and get to know people, and whether you're wearing these different hats. What can people do?
Well, I think those kind of also tie into the authenticity portion of it. You're going to build credibility when people can really feel that you are who you say you are, and the services that you are promising, you follow through, and you either fulfill what you say you're going to do or go above and beyond. That's going to be how you build credibility. As far as like a job search, building credibility goes to when you're in the interview and you say, these are the things that I can do, and I'll show you because this is what I did for my last position, or these are some of the ideas that I have. If I were to get this position, these are some of the ways that I could help your company. You build that credibility by having confidence in your skills and knowing, I know that I can help you in these ways, A, B, and C. So credibility, I feel like credibility, confidence, and authenticity really tie closely together in that aspect. You can separate them a little bit if you want to, but I
so
they're very closely married.
Yes. So I will add, for the job seeker, when you're working on your resume, part of it is how you format your resume. So if you list out a lot of tasks, which I don't recommend, don't list out every task you've ever done. It's not meant to be an HR manual or anything like that of every position or every task or anything like that. What you want to do is you want to tell a story in your resume. So you're going to pull out those things, those select contributions and achievements that are going to build that credibility, or as the reviewer reads your resume, they see it. It comes through. It comes through in the story, but it comes through with outcomes. So if you say you are a project manager and you've worked on 10 projects, what was the result of that? What was the outcome? Did you save the company any money? Did you streamline any processes? Did you, produce the product in less time, project in less time? What was the outcome? What's the so what, right? The so what?
Right.
If you do that, now you're giving that hiring authority, some credible information. Oh, wow, he actually, he said he's a project manager, but now he's given me some facts of what he's done and how much he's done. And, there's only so much you can fluff your way through. If you've actually done it, it'll come across that you did it. If you didn't do it and you're trying to fake it till you make it, they can see right through that. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that drives me nuts sometimes when I'm working with someone, I'll see their resume and they're like, I have quantifiable information all over my resume. And they'll say, look at this. I produced 30% over last year. Maybe it's sales. They sold 30% over last year's sales. That has told me nothing. 30% over what? You sold, $1.30 over $1. I don't know. I mean, you sold I'm not the math person, so forgive me if that was wrong. But, give me a number so I can see the actual 30% over what? Was it over $1 million? Whoa, that's a big difference than, $5, or you completed, a certain number of tasks over last year. Okay, you completed 2 tasks, 10 tasks, 15, or you supervised people. Okay, I have Melanie. I mean, how many did you supervise? 50, 200, you got to give them something, and that lends to your credibility on paper from a resume standpoint. For a business, testimonials, testimonials from people, and using testimonials on sites that you can't change them. So a recommendation on LinkedIn is a good example. There, Chance is in again. He's wanting to be here. Recommendations on LinkedIn, testimonials on your website that people have given you that also are noted, say, on Google, where you can't alter them. I can put whatever I want on my website, but if they're elsewhere, and I can't alter those are true. Those are real recommendations. Authors, how can you do it? Book reviews. And they're hard to get. And Amazon's not making it any easier nowadays. Those are ways to build credibility, to also connect with people. In order to get those, you have to connect with people. You have to do something. You have to be a top performer in your job. You have to excel in providing, like Melanie said, the services you offer. And then you have to make the connections with people, first-time authors especially. If you don't know anyone, you got to get out there and know people.
Right.
So let's talk about networking, because that hits all areas too, and that's your personal brand. People need to see you. You need to present a particular image. So Melanie, let's talk about networking.
So with networking in regard to your personal brand, you want to make sure, one thing that we haven't talked about at all yet is color scheme. And different aspects that aren't just like facts based, but it also creates this whole overarching look or feeling or emotion in regard to whether you have like, say that you're a social media influencer or a blogger. Typically, excuse me, the good ones, you are going to be able to recognize when that is a product of whoever. You're going to be able to recognize, Janine, her colors are gorgeous blues and teals, right? And we've talked a little bit before in I know when you were talking to, I think it was Crystal, you guys were talking about colors and how colors evoke certain emotions and how you should be cognizant of that when you are choosing specific colors or looks for your brand. So if you have, say, a personal website, and you want people to feel very, if you want your brand to feel very clean, very straightforward, not complicated, your website should reflect that feeling with how it looks, and when someone meets you in person, you should also reflect your brand with the way that you're, with you, the way that you present yourself. So say that you pride yourself on attention to detail and you show up to a networking event and you have like a button that you forgot to button, or you have like scuff marks on your shoes. That does not portray you as a person who has very good attention to detail. So, with networking, you also want to be aware. Well, one thing, this is kind of a little off topic, but I did want to mention this. Say that you are applying for a managerial position, right? And you're going up against, say you're younger, maybe you're in your early 30s or upper 20s or whatever, and you're applying at this company for a managerial position, and you're going up against gentlemen that are, or ladies, whatever, that are in their, 50s, that have had a lot of experience in this area. And, they've got all this experience, and the main thing that you're bringing to the table is your youth. You want that to come across as an advantage and not a detriment. So how this translates is, think about when you are meeting people in person. It could be something as simple as, say, the brands that you have on your clothing. You're not going to want to show up to an interview wearing a brand that is associated with like teenagers, or, I can't think of a brand right now, but like, you're not going to want to show up with something that so clearly screams, I am not management material. I'm still a kid.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's just something to think about with your branding. With networking, when you come with a branding statement, that is like you said, it can be a conversation starter, and an extension of your branding statement could be what we call an elevator pitch. It's where you kind of expound upon it a little bit, where the elevator pitch is the answer to the question. After you tell them your branding statement, they would say, well, what does that mean in practice? And you could say, well, I'm a light to others by whatever, and they call it an elevator pitch because you should be able to give it in the amount of time it takes to ride up and down an elevator, So it's just short to the point, not like, here's my whole life story, But networking is an excellent way. Did you know? Well, I know because you're the one that told me. What's it like? 85% of all jobs are actually gotten through networking.
Right. Well, actually, it's even going up. It's more like 90 right now.
Wow.
Thanks to the changes LinkedIn has made with their platform.
Yes.
It didn't used to always be that way, but people still, my job seekers, they still gravitate to easy, which is, using these online job platforms. And it's good for research, use it to find companies that you didn't know existed and jobs, but then go to the company websites. Don't apply on them necessarily, because the return on what I call your effort or your investment time, 5 to 7% of people actually get jobs that way. And they get so frustrated when they don't hear back.
Yeah.
It's better to network because the rate is really now over 90%. And, that's where you're in person. You can talk to people. I know we're dealing with pandemic stuff right now, not a lot of events going on with large groups, but LinkedIn offers a great way to network with other people. And again, you can go to vision2purpose.com under our blog section and click on LinkedIn. And I have 10 tips for how to network effectively using LinkedIn. And let me say, I'm not an affiliate or anything of LinkedIn. I just know from all of the social media platforms, from a business perspective, that's the one you're going to want to use. It's still, it's informal, but it's still professional. Think business casual when you think LinkedIn. You want to show another side of yourself. But it goes hand in hand with your resume. Your resume is your traditional formal, product that tells people who you are. But I'll tell you, as soon as a hiring authority gets that, they're going to go straight to LinkedIn and check you out, because your resume can't show a picture, because that could open a whole host of issues for them, lawsuits and whatnot. So they don't see picture, but they can check out your picture on LinkedIn, and they can get a feel for who you are by your colors you choose, by the words you use, by the groups you sign up for.
We have another blog article on how to nail your headshot. And that article talks about the importance of like attention to detail, again, like missed buttons or whatever, brands in the photos. as well as, the lighting. If you want to, that article, I had so much fun writing it and researching it, because looking at all the different photos of different headshots, if you want to evoke the feeling of this like powerful, person that just commands a room, that's going to give you, you're going to have like a different look in your face, a different twinkle in your eye. Different
Right.
lighting could be like from the side to make you look more serious. Your colors might be more intense, like blacks and red. And or if you want to come across as very approachable and just somebody that's just a joy to be around, and say you're applying to be a nanny, you want one that you come across as very like fun loving and friendly and trustworthy. And so your colors are going to reflect that. The lighting is going to be lighter. You're going to smile, So
Right. Right.
the photo on LinkedIn is incredibly important. I think people so often fail to recognize how important that is, because you can evoke a feeling of someone who is either inviting, or you do not want to post a picture on LinkedIn of you like with your arm around somebody and they're cropped out and you got like a solo cup of beer in your hand. Like that is not the picture you want to portray. Like keep that for
Right.
Facebook or whatever. But like you were telling me before, LinkedIn is kind of like the buttoned down version of your resume. It allows you to give a little bit of a glimpse into your personality, and it allows you to be a little bit more relaxed with the way that you describe your experiences and your interests. And it also allows you space to talk about things that you're interested outside of your professional life. So, that could be right there. Like somebody could be hiring you, say, for, social media managing or whatever. And they're like,
Right.
oh, I really like that she actually has an interest in homeopathy, because my website actually deals with natural health. And they wouldn't necessarily know that, because that's not a fact I would put on my resume.
Right.
So
Right.
LinkedIn is excellent for that.
And it works for all. It works for the author, it works for the job seeker, it works for the business. In fact, the business actually gets a bonus, because businesses can have what they call company pages. So you can build your personal side and connect it to the business side, so you can give your potential clients that full picture too. So it is a great tool to connect with people, to demonstrate credibility and the authentic you. And I'll tell you, all everyone who's watching, you can even do articles. You could do a quick article. And when I say article, this is LinkedIn. So you want to keep them short, maybe 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs. And you can actually take someone else's. Remember, I said work with other people, strategic alliances. I could put an article out there as a follow on to something somebody else put out there with a link to their article. And now you're building connections with people. Join groups. If you're the author, join author groups. If you're a business, join other businesses on LinkedIn that provide complementary services, or or are in your field, an industry of interest. And then job seekers, find groups that have people that work where you want to work, that kind of stuff. It hits all three, because again, you can be authentic, you can be you're connecting with people, and you're building credibility. You're top of mind with people. And I love what Melanie, what you were saying about colors. One of the reasons I chose blue, blue is a trust color. So for interviews, you're going to want to wear blue or white. White is also a trust color. If you're trying to be creative writers, surround yourself with, soft greens. Greens are very good for, creativity and calming. If you happen to be in fast food or something like that, or, some
Reds and
sort of
yellows.
food type service, you're going to want red or orange, because those evoke hunger. So again, as you're self-reflecting, think about colors too. What colors are you drawn to? And look up, do a quick search. What do those mean? You want to add anything else on that? I know you even talked about smells when we had our conversation earlier.
So in one of my marketing classes, I learned that some companies will actually pump certain smells into the air around, like if they're in a mall or something, and you're going to immediately recognize it as soon as I mention these. did you know Cinnabon actually would pump the cinnamon bun smell into the air, and it's not just from the rolls baking.
Oh,
It's
wow.
actually a scent that they pump into the air around, and it wafts into different parts of the mall, and it draws people to come and get those fresh baked Cinnabons. And then, think about the smell at like Abercrombie. They will just literally, somebody I had my niece worked at one, and she said every morning somebody was responsible for, and I don't know if this is every location, but is responsible for going around the store and just spritzing whatever is their like, best selling cologne or whatever. And that you walk within like a 1 mile area of Abercrombie, you can smell that, like, or Hollister is the same way. Some American Eagles are strong like that. And you can just smell, and that will evoke this feeling of, for me, I have a super sniffer, so I'm very sensitive to smells.
Yes.
And they evoke memories. I can smell something that I haven't smelled since childhood, and it will immediately connect me with memories. Like just random things will pop in my head, and I'll be like, why is that associated with that smell? I don't know why. But you can, so my nieces and nephews, my signature smell is vanilla. And my nieces, one of my nieces, she says that I smell like those little Cadbury mini egg, or not the Cadbury one, like the little Robin's eggs that you can only
yeah.
Vanilla candy smell and milk chocolate. She's like, oh, Aunt Mel, you always smell like those chocolate Easter eggs. And that evoked, like, they always feel comforted around me. Kids, I have so many friends that have kids that like don't like people, and they love me. And I swear, I'm like, it's because I smell like fresh baked goods. They just really comforting. And so you like those tiny little things matter, because scents and the way you make people feel, if you can set them at ease and make them laugh, like you were saying, I made you laugh when I was doing announcements at church, and you're like, you know what? I want to work with her, and I wasn't even looking for a job. And you were like, hey, do you want to work with me? And I was like, yes, I do. So it's those little things that are essentially part of your brand, whether you think about it or not.
Right. Well, I was thinking smell, when you sell a house, what do they tell you to do? Bake cookies.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a smell I would want associated with my brand, it would be chocolate chip cookies. I want that comfort. I want people to feel comfortable and loved, and it's like a big hug. They may not even like chocolate chip cookies, but they like the smell. That would be part of my brand. Yeah, a big hug. A big hug. You think about that
with every resume.
Right. You get some cookies with every. I'm going to do a strategic partnership with some cookie company or something. I don't know.
I feel
All
like
right. Well, we've gone over an hour talking about branding, and I tell you, Melanie and I could go on. We have lots more examples, but we're going to end it there with this last thought of just think about what you want to be known for. How do you want people to perceive you? And then, as we said, go to our website, www.visiontopurpose.com, go to the blog area, and you can even just do a search on different articles. We have several. Melanie's shared some, I've shared some, and just, check out what we have. And then if you need help trying to figure out your branding, you're not sure, call us. We'd be happy to have a chat with you. Mm-hmm. And with that, if you are now just joining and you realize you missed our podcast and you're thankful that we're still going when we really should have been done by now, hit the replay, listen to us. I think we had a lot of fun. I think you would enjoy it as well, and learn about branding. And again, if you need to reach out, we're here for you. Next Thursday, we have March 11th at 11 a.m. We have another wonderful guest. I'm so glad I was able to get him to come on the show. He is a busy person. Damon Courtney is from BookBrush. He is the author and actually founder of BookBrush. Let me correct myself. Excuse me, I just said BookBrush. That was last week. BookFunnel. I'm so sorry, Damon. BookFunnel. And he's coming on to tell us a little bit about the platform and how it got started. And he is also an indie author. And let me tell you, BookFunnel delivers, just to give you an idea, more than 2 million ebooks every single month. It just baffles me. It boggles the mind of how many books are go through this platform. And let me tell you how easy it is to use. You know, if you're an author, you're trying to collaborate with people. It's a way to do that. You share your books on this platform, and then you can send out this one link and get it out there. If you know, as you're growing in your author with your author hat, and you're trying to get beta readers and ARC, you know, what they call advanced readers and stuff like that, it's easy to send your book. You just have them do it for you through a landing page. Anyway, I could go on and on. I don't want to steal Damon's thunder because he's going to tell you all about this tool next week. But I'll tell you, as a new author myself, it has been a lifesaver. It has helped me grow my email list and whatnot. And anyway, so we have Damon coming on next week to talk book funnel. So join us. And I guess that's it, unless you have anything else, Melanie. I think we're done. I think that's all we got. All right. Well, I will see you all next week. Thanks for coming on, Melanie. And
thanks for having me.
For being with us, everyone. Bye-bye.